Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. I'm Rosebud Reads, and welcome to my book garden. Welcome also to the fourth live stream of Peerless Book One. We are getting into it and have some very interesting chapter ahead of us. Little bit of logistics. This is a very chill stream. That means I will be talking with my lovely book garden. We'll be talking with myself, and I will be talking to the book. If that is not your flavor, that is totally okay. It's not everyone, but maybe stick around. You might enjoy it. If not, totally understand. No worries. Hello, Annika. Hello, Chi Kiki. Been watching. How's the convention, Kiki? It looks like a lot of fun. I'm a little surprised to see you, like excited to see you, but I also know you're at a convention, so I hope you had a great time. It was fun. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Hello, Truffle. Welcome. Continuing logistics. I do not own anything. The only thing I own is the physical copy over there, and my time, and sometimes not even that. More frequently during con season, I do not own my time. But I am not sponsored. I do not make anything from these videos. Seven Seas owns this currently, and if they ever want to sponsor me, that would be amazing. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Yes, you should definitely try going to a convention sometimes, Truffle. The first convention of the winter season is this weekend for me. So I am super excited. I finally got to look at the schedule, and it is a good one. I cannot wait. Finished 300 Years Long. It's so good. And Thrice Married to Salted Fish finally came. Ooh, that means you're able to read Thrice Married to Salted Fish. The second one just came out too, so is that, and you've got another con this weekend, Gigi Kiki. Very nice. You'll have to tell us about that too. But some other exciting things happening other than the convention this weekend for me. I finally got my Yiggy Bean box, which means I got my Scum Villain set along with a few others. So I get to show you guys kind of some of the goodies. It's a nice big box. But we'll do Scum Villain last because I want to show some of what else I got. So I was waiting for these for a long time. So I got the Non-Chan special editions, 1 and 2. And they are gorgeous. I'm so excited about this. They came with some goodies. So we'll open these very carefully because I don't want to damage them. Okay. Oh, why is that sticky? No, it's good. Yes, we definitely do love goodies. Trying to find the best spot so I don't damage anything. Should do. No. I was starting to get worried about some of my orders just because, like, I didn't realize that for Yiggy Bean, they don't ship your order if you have pre-orders until the pre-order comes out to save on shipping. So that was making me a little apprehensive because I was like, Non-Chan came out a while ago, but oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. So here's the front now that it's not as shiny. This is dust cover. Birth, aging, illness, and death. And then here is the inside. don't see any pictures, but that's okay. So for book 1, here are the goodies. So we have this friend. Oh, we do have a picture of the original. Nice. Hello, Mars Rover. We're just going over some of the goodies because my Yigi Bean box finally came in. This is really pretty. It's really pretty. Yay, goodies. I agree. So this is from Nanchan. So that's book 1. I shall very carefully open book 2. Don't want to scratch the dust jacket or the book itself. We'll be very careful with all of these. But yeah, how you doing? How's everybody doing? I actually honestly had kind of a rough day today. So this is good. This will hopefully cheer me up a little bit. Just a very long day. So isn't in my library system. I feel you. It's really hard to find some of the less well-known publishing companies at libraries like Rosemay and all of that. So here's the back. So parting with loved ones, encounters with hated ones. And then the cover and sides. So pretty. And then here's the inside. So same, basically. So pretty, though. Just a gorgeous book. This will be one of those that I read at home. This does not go to work with me. Okay. And then our goodies. Love it. Especially his little tail. So cute. Right? So pretty. This is this one. Yes. I don't even know if they're standees because they don't have anything to make them stand, but it's all good. And then this is absolutely beautiful. This will probably go on the wall. Love it. Okay. So that is the first part. Because he is... We're going to put here. All right. As I said, we're going to save Scum Villain for last. Okay. Next is the special edition Little Mushroom ones. Definitely quality art. All right. Let me see about opening this properly. There we go. Wow. They packed it. Like, look at this. Look at this whole situation. So we have the little poster. Little mushroom. Wrong, but still right. Yes, it's out already. Oh, we do have standees for this one, though. So cute. Oh my gosh, that's adorable. I love that the little blanket makes it look like a mushroom. So cute. I kind of was hoping there was a Lu Fang. But, oops, wrong way. So pretty. So I have the non-translated versions, but I'm excited because these are the translated versions. And then I did also order the third one. I don't know if that one's going to come in English because I did third party. So we'll see when that one comes in, but that one's going to be a while. Yes. Yes. I'll have to hit up Aloha Comics to see. Didn't know the apocalypse could look so good, right? Okay, I'm going to put them back in their protective box. They'll definitely pop up Anja later. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. So because I ordered through Yigi Bean, they actually did an exclusive where for Scumbill, and if you ordered it for the pre-ordered, they give you a stand with a little coaster with the art. So I ordered early. So I did actually end up getting a little coaster. And they're so happy, and that makes me so happy. But yeah, so that was the bonus if you ordered with Yigi Bean. So I was like, yeah, okay. Yes. Not a flower that I'd usually associate with Scumvillain, but I do appreciate that they are sunflowers. Yes. Okay. So the question everyone has been asking for anyone who orders these, what's your number? And I can proudly say my number is 8,792. So pretty early on for it. Kind of thinking, can I do this so that I keep my sticker on the box? And I think I can. I am very careful. Very careful. It's like doing surgery. Danmei surgery. What? Annika, you got super early numbers? That's awesome. I think it's like super random because I ordered pretty early on. But they sent mine out later because of the pre-order. So like I don't know if there actually is a system to it. Okay. Okay. Haha! I have preserved it! Ha. Okay, now we can look at the box. Okay, it's kind of shiny because I kept the plastic on. But I love that we get our not main characters. So we have Yuki at the top, or Yukin Chuan, Lu Qinghe. We have Lu Binghe. Oh no, that's Tan Lang Jun and Zuzzy Lang. And also just like little puff monsters. I'm not sure what monster that is, but they're cute. They're really cute. Okay, so on the back, we of course have our main boys and the system. They're looking adorable and happy and sweet and soft. So cute. Uh-oh. They also have the red rope. No! I know it's supposed to be the red string of fate, but if you know, you know. Okay. And then we have Xinghua. We also have Mobe June. We have, oh my gosh, I know them. Lu Mingyan and Sha Hualing. And then we have, oh my gosh, Sweet Baby Boy got done dirty. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I know him. I do know him. I swear. Sweet Baby Boy. Okay. Let's take a look at the books. All right. Book 1. Gorgeous. I love it. I love how they drew Shen Yuan. I do wish they gave him glasses, though, because I am super fond of Shen Yuan with glasses. But I'm not disappointed with the character design. And then we have super gorgeous binding, and it continues the picture. And of course, on the inside, we have another gorgeous picture. Disciple Days. So pretty. Like, I would buy a print of this. Legitimately would. And of course, the spine is gorgeous and creates its own picture. The back is the same as the front. Baby Bingha. I'm gonna keep them out. Yeah. And I'm gonna close the knife so I don't accidentally scratch them. All right, book 2. Oh my gosh, I love their expressions. They hurt in the best way. Especially Sheng Qingqua. Sheng Qingqiu. Hurts. I did see the new Heaven Official Blessings short. So we have kind of a continuation of the picture. Then let's see what heartrending. Woo! Oh my. Oh my. Hello, Shizun. Like, I mean, pain, but like, hello, Shizun. That is a lot of tongue. It's very good, Chichikiki. Right? Oh my. And I just realized I forgot to show the actual book. My mistake. We'll do the first one in just a moment. That's heartbreakingly gorgeous. Ow. I love that they do the subtle print, like on Sheng Qingqiu's robe. And then it says, "For all that is past, I repay you today," which is the phrase that he says when he detonates. So that's heartbreaking. And I'm pretty sure that's Sinmo. Yep. And for this one, without this cover, we have Baby Disciple de Bing Bing and Shizun. It's the best way so you can actually see the image before it gets too shiny. On the inside. And it says, Shen Qingqiu seems to be paying extra attention to him today. He couldn't help but smile. That almost looks like a plate design. I know it's the fan and bamboo and such, but that would be a really cool plate. Yes. I do love the gilding too. I am very happy that I am in this fandom at the time that I am, because these are like the main three of the Dame community, and they mean a whole lot to me and a lot of other people. And the fact that I have the chance to get these, because I don't know / kind of know, just based on the limitability of things, how hard it would be to find these later, and just not having the chance because you didn't know it existed kind of makes things harder. Like, I have a propensity for collecting the special editions, partially because of the limitability of merch of certain less known pieces. But like, I wasn't in the Scumvillain community at the time when that happened, and you just can't find it unless you are willing to pay through the nose for it. And at this time, I'm not. So it's one of those where I'm very glad to be in the time currently in a point where I'm financially able to do this. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Annika. I missed the special edition, so I'm super happy to have the hardcovers now. Agreed. And Hua Chong's handwriting does not improve. It does not. And no, it was cute that he did get snarky about the handwriting. Okay, cover for book 3. Now that I did my little spiel. But yes. Oh my goodness, they both look so tired. Poor babies. Gorgeous. Got a little bit of the little bit of our Modao Zushi vibe going. I know it's because they're probably in the tomb, mausoleum right now, but represent. Gosh, it's so gorgeous. Okay, the back says, he bit all over Shen Qingqiu's lips like they were pieces of candy, his breaths growing shorter and shorter. And it's the Jade Guanyin. Beautiful. Did I show the front? I don't think I showed the front. If I feel like I didn't show the front. Here's the front. They're in the coffin. Immortalize the fact that Binghe is a bad kisser. He is. Oh, hi! D. Hi, D. I remembered. I got a package from Iggy Books that I ordered. And finally, all the pre-orders are fulfilled, so we're going through it. And it is gorgeous. Yes, we will open that in a little bit, this too. Wait a minute. I thought there was supposed to be details on the inside of the box. But mine doesn't have that. That's strange. It's not concerning. That's okay. I might be imagining it. And book 4. Happy. Once again, gorgeous. Okay, continuing the picture. Okay. Strange. Aww. They're drinking the wedding wine. Love it. That's understandable, D. Tonight, I feel like I like you a great deal. Aww. Oh, spice warning. Oh, ho, ho. Happy wedding. It's a very happy Bingha, I can tell you. Truffle, I agree. Whoa. Oh, my. Love it. They're so pretty. Okay. All right. So art book before I realized that was in there. Luckily, she didn't comment. So all the spines put together. Hang on. Let's not knock these over. I would be really sad. All right. All together, they create an image of Chinjing Peak and the fall. And then the top are each of the different aspects in the books. And the bottoms are like this side. Speaking of art, case file compendium. Are you talking about the flying Pegasus, steampunk Pegasi, or the death image? Hang on, let me gently put these back in. Okay. Now, there are 2 posters and an art book. So I will gently open them. I'll back up far enough so you can see it. Disciple Days. So pretty. Yeah, case file sure looks like it'd be fun, but in a way that'll hurt and be slightly confusing. And then I'm going to zoom in on their faces because they deserve the zoom in. I love it. Even his hair crown, it's got a little shine to it. Look at that. They put a little extra sparkle to it. I love it. Oh. Well, we had the serotonin first. Now we have the absolute heartbreak of the endless abyss scene. Literally stabbing you in the heart. So yeah, I'll show the different situations. And then Bingha's devastated expression as he falls into the abyss after being stabbed by his heart. No, I totally get it. Chichi. And then there's the mini art book, which I'll go through really quick. So, it's all the paperback covers. So book 1 is here in the back cover. This was my first in the MXTX lineup that I read. Book 2. Gong Yi Shao. That was the name I couldn't remember. Gong Yi Shao. You never know with Don May if it's a weird hallucination or if they made it happen, Truffle. Book 3. Book 4. And I love that they drew Lu Mingyan with her book of fan fiction. The purple and red lesbians are Lu Mingyan and oh my goodness, I literally said it. Xia Hualing. It's not confirmed that they're lesbians, but it's kind of confirmed that they're lesbians. So then hardcover and paper. So I'm guessing book 1 because that's when the whole Endless Abyss thing starts. Oh, these are what we just saw. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the hardcover dust jackets. Here's one. It's kind of cool that they have this so like you can have your box somewhere safe and then just be like, look, these are the fancies. I like that. I like that. So pretty. And sketches and resources. Fine on their sword. I wish I could say that I'd be good at that, but like I would not. I have tried skateboarding before. Not for me. Not for me. I do love Zuzzy Lang though. Mooching Fang! Yo! Represent! I wish they didn't add the beard in the Donghua. He looks so sweet in this. Look at him. Look at those two. And then we have concept sketches. So cool. They are babies. And then concept sketches. And I wish we had a manhwa for Scum Villain. That would be so cool. Concepts. Oh yeah. Is this the this is the relationship chart? System. I love it. System. Actually in charge. And then the map that everyone basically has said does not actually exist because it doesn't make sense. And the moment Shen Qing Chu had flipped open Proud Immortal Demon Way, the story had begun. But as he shut Proud Immortal Demon Way, the story had yet to end. Or perhaps the story circulating through the world might already have ended. But the story between you and me has only just begun. Scum Villain Self-Saving System, Mo Xiang Tong Shu. Thank you for your support of the English edition. Aw. There's our happy sunflowers. I love this soft picture of Shen Qing Chu. Like this, I love this. This is one of my favorites. Yes. Okay. And that is it for my big old box of goodies. You know what? I'm gonna keep this out. Well, for now, I will put it back. If I had a nickel, every time I feel for a man who gets a bad end, wears green, I would have 3, which isn't a lot, but is weird. Bring this up. Okay. Okay. That is pretty funny. Okay. Why do my pens always disappear right when I need to use them? Okay. What chapter are we starting today? 13. Chirong, Chiano, Zuzzy Lang. Okay, the 12th one. Okay. Hello, OG Bloodline. Welcome. You actually just came in when we're about to start. I had some books arrive from Yiggy Bean. JP. Okay. Hello, JP. Welcome. Literally, we're just starting because I opened up some new books and we're showing them off and all the extras and covers and such. So literally, we were about to do a summary of kind of what was happening before and get started. Go for it, JP. I might be able to answer it. I've read a number of books. What time are we starting? You're not supposed to be saying this? I mean, we're pretty open here, so I feel like you'll be okay. While you're getting your question or deciding if you're going to ask your question, I'm going to kind of start summarizing a little bit. I don't know a lot about the Book of the Dead. I know the theory of it. I know what it is, but the actual Book of the Dead, like the contents, specifically, I don't know all that much. Interesting question, though. Yeah. It contains the theology about what the Egyptians believed was the Book of the Dead and reincarnation, if I'm remembering correctly. And what happens in the afterlife. I think it's been a long time since I did anything or read anything relating to Egypt or Egyptian society. I'm sorry. Sorry, that's about it. Interesting question. Kind of shifting focus though. Last time we started reading, I'm gonna write down our time. We had Lin Lang Pavilion. Today was the final day of the auction, and the hall was more crowded than ever. The threshold for entering had likewise risen. Not only did attendees require invitations, they also had to pay a deposit at the door. If they bid on something, the deposit would be put towards that item. If nothing caught their fancy, Lin Lang Pavilion would return them their fee when they left. The only Forbidden Forest I know of is Harry Potter. This approach effectively weeded out those who came to make trouble, those who couldn't afford anything, or those who only wished to spectate. Yes, we are on the trail of the not suspicious at all courtesan. And the suspicious auction house. You are correct, Truffle. Feng Xiao had just led Chu Buchu and Pei Jingzi inside when a voice behind them exclaimed, "If it isn't Feng Er!" The newcomer caught up to them with quick strides and regarded Feng Xiao with surprise and joy. "Feng Er, long time no see. I didn't expect to find you here." So suspicious as in you are probably the murderer. Kind of suspicious. As in, you are probably a spy planted here on purpose, and then you became the courtesan. And we are working to prove this. The man was in his mid-20s, wearing a tall crown and red clothes. He had the graceful and confident bearing of an aristocratic young master. But Chu's eyes were sharper than most. He immediately observed that this man's attitude toward Feng Xiao was rather unusual. Even when old friends reunited, this level of enthusiasm and eagerness bordering on solicitude was odd. Yet it didn't seem like this man was trying to ingratiate himself with Feng Xiao either. As Chu considered this puzzle, Feng Xiao's eyebrows shot up in surprise and he smiled. Young Estate Master Lin, it's been a while. When Chu heard this name in combination with the man's age and conduct, the young master's background instantly fell into place. Oh, that's very cool, JP. Very much ex-boyfriend vibes, Truffle. Yandang Mountain Estate housed a middle-class family prominent in the Jianghu. They were primarily merchants and wealthy ones at that. The 13 forms of the Yangdai sword technique had been passed down through the generations, but estate master Lin Ling had only managed to sire a son in his later years. Not unexpectedly, this meant he heeded his child's every whim and gave him whatever he wanted, even turning a blind eye to his more ridiculous habits. Yandang Mountain Estate's renown within the Jianghu came not from the Lin family's wealth, nor the Yandang sword techniques they wielded, but from Lin Yong. Just as Lin Yong, beaming, was about to step forward and grab Feng Xiao's hand, Feng Xiao seamlessly took a small step back and slid his arm around Chu's shoulders. Before Chu could react, he'd been dragged to Feng Xiao's side. Their shoulders knocked against each other. Allow me to introduce you to young estate master. This is a dear friend of mine, Chu. Chu, this is the young master of Yandang Mountain Estate, Lin Yang. He put deliberate emphasis on the word dear friend, his lips curving in an ambiguous smile. Any listener would find it dubious, and their imagination would run wild. Chu was utterly flummoxed. So that was where we ended last time. What can my interviewer character say to the lady interviewer that asked him some questions? What a Yan Wuxi move. Yeah, definitely a Yan Wuxi move. You can see where he gets that. I wish you luck with that, JP. That sounds pretty cool. I don't know if I was any help, but... all right, Chapter 13. The moment the words, dear friend, were spoken, the eyes Lin Yang had turned upon Chu narrowed with hostility. Now that Chu had placed Lin Yang, he also remembered the rumors about him. He made to brush Feng Xiao's hand away without a second thought, but that hand clung to him as if it was glued. He couldn't push it off, no matter how he tried. Lin Yang's eyes flashed as he smiled. Chu Langjun must be very special indeed if he's Feng Er's dear friend. The Chu in Chu Langjun's name. Would that be the Chu family of Boling or the Chu family of Qinghe? It's just Chu. Chu's face was carefully blank. I'm from neither Boling nor Qinghe. I'm only a commoner. My humble name is not worth mentioning. The more he insisted on his ordinariness, the more unconvincing Lin Yang found him. Chubuchu's steps were weak and unsteady, his face drawn and pale. His brow and eyes were lined with fatigue. It was obvious he didn't know any martial arts and was plagued by illness. Why would such a man receive Feng Er's favor? It was truly bizarre. Several years ago, Feng Er had encountered Lin Yang as the latter was embroiled in some minor trouble. With his help, Lin Yang had managed to extricate himself from the situation. Oh boy, you made yourself special! Back then, Feng Er had seemed to descend from the heavens, awing Lin Yang at first sight. No one had ever been able to catch his eye since. Feng Er, however, wasn't remotely interested in him that way. What was more, Feng Xiao was a powerful martial artist. Even if he wanted to, Lin Yang couldn't force himself on him. Moving on, he might end up losing his life if he tried. Thus, he restrained his lustful impulses and acted as warm and attentive as possible toward Feng Xiao, hoping that the man would come around eventually. But Feng Er's whereabouts were erratic, and Lin Yang, to date, hadn't pinned down his background or identity. He never knew where Feng Er would resurface, so reuniting with him at this moment was truly a pleasant surprise. Didn't know martial arts. Assumptions get people's butts kicked. Oh dear, not one of these guys. I'm getting some Yu-Wu flashbacks. Lin Yang thought himself quite handsome, so the idea that Feng Xiao preferred this invalid elicited a wave of resentment. He was about to say more when Feng Xiao smiled and led Chubuchu inside, throwing a "we'll be going ahead" over his shoulder. Chubuchu found himself alternately dragged and prodded into the room. Feng Xiao's gestures looked soft and intimate, but they left no room for resistance. Linlang Pavilion had 2 floors arranged around a central atrium. The lower level held the auction floor, surrounded by guest seating. From the second level, one had a full view of the central area over the railing. Feng Xiao and Chubuchu took their seat on the second floor's south side. Tea and snacks had already been placed on the low table, and the waiters didn't shout the way those in wine pavilions or restaurants usually did. Even their footsteps were soundless. Truffle. This is totally my boyfriend. I'm a taken man. Oh. That's... The hush was contagious. Most guests kept their voices down as well, while the melody of the pipa drifted in from afar and lent the whole a hint of sophisticated charm. It felt more like they were inside a dance house than in Linlang Pavilion's branch doing business. Chubuchu gave the hall a quick scan. The first floor was mostly composed of ordinary wealthy merchants and residents of the Jianghu, while the second held young people from noble families. In contrast to the tranquility of the second floor, the first was far rowdier. Linlang Pavilion had obviously separated the two on purpose, possibly to avoid unnecessary trouble. They ascended the stairs and turned a corner, slipping behind the screen and finally shaking off Lin Yang's unswerving gaze. At almost the same time, Feng Xiao released Chubuchu and shoved him aside, as if terrified he'd catch something nasty if he touched him a moment longer. Well, I'm glad it's good news, Dai. Chubuchu silently made another black mark in his mental ledger, then found a place to sit with no change in expression. Dude's just racking up the tallies. Feng Xiao seemed oblivious, his face wreathed in smiles. Judging by your expression, you know of Ling Yang's predilections. Is that why you used me to mess with him? Chubuchu was annoyed. This wasn't included in the conditions of our agreement. Feng Xiao looked back at him innocently. Out to see the world today, didn't I? What's wrong with asking for a little something in return? Anyway, he can't hurt you with me around. Lin Yang might have some indecent hobbies, but he's no fool, said Chuguchu coolly. Be far more believable if you used Peijing Z rather than me. Peijing Z, who'd been drinking his tea in silence, choked and coughed. Man, Peijing Z is just getting the short end of the stick in this. He's just following along. Feng Xiao smiled. It wouldn't work. You're better looking. He'd hardly finished speaking when Lin Yang's silhouette appeared behind the screen. It's really too noisy downstairs. I can't get a moment of peace. Would Feng Erlong mind if I intruded? Seconds before, there'd been more than a foot of space between Feng Xiao and Chubuchu. But the instant Lin Yang's voice rang out, Feng Xiao grabbed Chubuchu's wrist and leaned in close, lips curving in a doting smile. Chu-Chu, there's dust on your nose. Let me brush it off for you. Yeah, I'll give him an injustice tally. All right, so current counting, we're at 4 injustices to service workers, 0 justice to service workers, 2 injustice to animals, and 1 injustice to innocents. Oh, thank you. All right. The stare Lin Yang directed at Chubuchu became increasingly intense. Chubuchu saw a flash of killing intent in his eyes, but only a flash. Lin Yang quickly regained his graceful and confident demeanor, as if what Chubuchu saw had been an illusion. Though Yandang Mountain Estate was only a mid-tier martial arts family in context of the entire Jianghu, people still showed Lin Yang respect on account of his father's generosity and hospitality. Feng Xiao, however, cared not a whit for such things. My apologies. I'm afraid there's no more room. Feng Xiao's smile was pleasant, but his words were a blunt rejection. Lin Yang hadn't given up yet. But before he could say more, Pei Jingzi stepped in front of him. This way, young estate master Lin. Then, let's talk another day, Lin Yang said reluctantly. Feng Xiao gave a slight nod. And yes, we might as well amuse ourselves. Very much so, Truffle. He'd showed Lin Yang no respect at all, but Lin Yang didn't express any displeasure. To Lin Yang, Feng Xiao was like the shadow of a soaring bird, a man who revealed no hints as to his true name and background. He seemed to appear out of thin air in the Jianghu, coming and going without a trace. That mysterious allure of his had snared Lin Yang completely. Otherwise, why would he still be yearning for him? Lin Yang couldn't help but shoot one last glance at Chubuchu as he went. Chubuchu's lashes were lowered, leaving his expression unclear as Feng Xiao lightly grasped his wrist and swung it back and forth. Lin Yang sneered in his heart. So Chubuchu was only a plaything. He shook out his sleeves and left. By the time Feng Xiao released his wrist, Chubuchu had lost his look of displeasure. Instead, he looked thoughtful. As deputy chief of the Jiajian Bureau, there was no need for Feng Xiao to treat Lin Yang's feelings with any delicacy, let alone hold up Chubuchu as a shield. Yet despite Lin Yang's repeated advances, Feng Xiao hadn't fallen out with him. In fact, he'd even left the door open. There had to be a reason behind it. What are you thinking? Need me to clarify something? Feng Xiao's voice was right beside his ear. Chubuchu suddenly had a thought. Is the Jiajian Bureau investigating Lin Yang? Feng Xiao's eyes flashed. What makes you think so? Chubuchu didn't answer immediately. Could Lin Yang be connected to the assassination of the envoy, he thought. No, that couldn't be it. Yandang Mountain Estate was thousands of miles from Lugong City. In the normal course of things, they had no dealings with Khotan or even with Linlang Pavilion. Lin Yang had likely only turned up to watch the show. There was, however, a small point of connection. One of the products the Lin family traded in was a silk called Sky Cleansing Gauze, which was produced in the south. Its luster was bright as the sky, its texture smooth as ice on a frozen lake. Officials and nobles alike adored it, and it had been listed as one of the tributes in the convoy. The Lin family sent some to the Sioux Palace every year. Trading this silk had been key to the Lin family's early success, and rumor had it that lately they'd been trying to use it to approach the Sioux crown prince. Feng Xiao allowed him to ponder. Choo Choo, with your abilities, remaining an unnamed and lowly spy within the Shu Yue Bureau is really too unfair to you. Right now, the Jijian Bureau has 3 chiefs. If you wish to join us, I'll tell my superiors to have you established as the 4th Bureau chief. Off to the side, Pei Jingzi's eyes widened. He held his tongue with some effort. The Jijian Bureau stood on equal footing with the 6 ministries. The bureau chief was also the Minister of Justice, and Feng Xiao, his deputy, had the authority to act independently when necessary. The power he held was enormous. Chu Chu might be from the Shu Yue Bureau, but his rank and identity were unknown. Yet now Feng Xiao wanted to appoint him as the 4th Bureau chief. It was a grand offer. Almost too grand. Pei Jingzi couldn't tell whether Feng Xiao truly wished to recruit more talent or if he was only trying to test Chu Chu. Lowly member. Yeah, I wouldn't be too sure of that. Oh, bye, Dee. Thank you for even just popping in for a little bit. I'm glad you got to say hey and hang around for a little bit. But have a good one. Definitely have a good night, and hopefully see you next time. Shu Chu's expression was placid as he slowly raised his head. What is this Shu Yue Bureau? I don't understand a word you're saying. Feng Xiao took Chu Chu's hand in his. You're in poor health, yet here you are, toiling in the border city, plotting and scheming with no one to appreciate your efforts. I just think it's a pity. The Jijian Bureau lacks a strategist like you. If you're willing, I'll tell the Shuyue Bureau myself. I promise I won't offend your superiors. What do you think? He tucked away his smile and stared intently at Chu, his face shining with sincerity. The sight was enough to make an iron tree bloom and a stone shed tears. For the first time, Chu realized there existed someone who could drive others out of their mind with looks alone. Perhaps he himself had escaped being bewitched, but that didn't stop him from marveling at Feng Xiao's beauty, as brilliant as spring blooms. Finlang Jun, though your words are very touching, I don't know any Shu Yue Bureau. I just want to live in peace as a Taoist priest. I hope you'll keep your promise and let me go. Seeing his attempts at seduction had failed, Feng Xiao's lips curled, and he released Chu Chu's hand. He leaned back and revealed his true colors. When did I promise to let you go? I said I'd consider letting you go. As for whether I can be persuaded, that all depends on your performance. That's not suggestive sounding. Even acting the part of a scoundrel, Feng Xiao managed to be captivating. Chu Chu couldn't help but silently curse him. Shameless man. As the two of them traded barbs, the crisp sound of a bell rang out, and a middle-aged man walked to the center of the floor downstairs. I got it. Everyone's attention was immediately drawn to him. The main event had begun. All right. 104:45. All right. Chapter 14. Linlang Pavilion's auction was famous. As their name spread, many pawn shops and jewelry stores imitated them and put on their own auctions using various gimmicks. Unfortunately, none could compare to the wealth and scale of Linlang Pavilion. An invitation to Linlang Pavilion's auction was rarer and more precious than gold. Many regarded them as a status symbol, and receiving one was considered a great honor. If Feng Xiao wanted an invitation, he had no problem obtaining one even without flaunting his identity, but others treasured what might be a once-in-a-lifetime chance. On this occasion, there were more than a few first-time attendees. They immediately quieted down when they saw the auctioneer appear. Esteemed guests, today is the final day of the auction. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. Linlang Pavilion has been honored by your presence. Now, we know everyone is waiting eagerly. Without further ado, we present our first item. The auctioneer didn't strain to be heard. His voice effortlessly resounded across the entire space. Though the special design of the atrium was a factor, he was likely also a master of internal cultivation. Linlang Pavilion was a grand enterprise and would naturally attract outside envy. It was no surprise that they'd hired martial artists from all over to oversee the auction. As the man's last words rang out, a beautiful maid came forward and presented a tray draped in golden silk. Two young waiters, one on either side, whisked the cloth away to reveal a bronze wine vessel. This wine vessel was used by Duke Huan of Qi during the spring and autumn period. 3 characters are inscribed on the base of the vessel, which proves the owner's identity. This item has been appraised and judged genuine by Dong Yang Xiansheng of Linlang Pavilion. The starting price is 10,000 coppers, and we'll do the final call thrice. Let us begin. So, just reminder, Xiansheng is a polite address for men, originally only for those of great learning, or those who have had made significant contributions to society. The maid pulled on a rope and the bell rang again. I got it. Nope. There you go. There we go. Someone called 11,000 coppers. 12,000. 13,000. Once the bidding started, noise in the hall swelled. Soon, someone called out a costly bid of 30,000. It wasn't that any of them were particularly interested in the bronze wine vessel in itself. Most treasures from Linlang Pavilion would at least double in value once purchased. Even if the buyer didn't sell the item and instead gave it out as a gift, all they needed was to say, verified by Dongyang Xiansheng from Linlang Pavilion, and the recipient would be suitably impressed. Who was the one who bid 30,000? Feng Xiao asked Chu Buchu with great curiosity. He didn't participate in the bidding. He was far more interested in the bidders. He was sure Chu Buchu would know the answer. Oh yeah, Chu Buchu knows people in the community and knows a lot about people, so that's kind of how he bargained his way out of the, we'll just say out of the basement, and convinced Feng Xiao to let him help. He knows people and recognizes them. As expected, Chu Buchu said, the bidder's name is Lang Du, the adopted son of the chief helmsman of the 9 guilds of water transport. Recently, Chief Helmsman Ning Shiwu gifted a rare beauty to the Emperor of Southern Chen Shubao. She won Chen Shubao's favor, and he dotes on her. It seems she pleased Chen Shubao so much, he handed the position of the South Canal's transport market to Ning Shiwu. Ling Du likely intends this wine vessel as a gift. Oh, hello, Esper Lady. Welcome. We're only on the 2nd chapter, and they're kind of now at the auction. We had some interactions with a wishful boyfriend admirer of Feng Xiao, Lin Long, who is the young master of Yangdan Mountain Estate. Yes, it is very funny. So now they're actually at the auction, and we have had the first bid. I suspect he was determined to obtain this item, perhaps because he knew bidding wouldn't be as fierce for the first one. The 9 guilds of water transport weren't a single entity, but, as the name suggested, a conglomeration of 9. Within the southern martial arts circles, they were a force none could afford to underestimate. Among the 9 guilds, the Jinhuan Guild held the greatest power, and this Meng Xi Shi, as their leader, was elected chief helmsman. Also, Esper Lady, the beginning of this video actually has some book openings, like the first 40 minutes, so if you're interested, something to watch later. I got my Scum set, so I go through all of it, all the pictures, all the covers, as well as Nanchan and Little Mushroom Special Edition. So, yes, Feng Xiao definitely was trying to pretend Chu Chu was his boyfriend. Yes. Meng Xi Shi was an ambitious man. Under his management, the 9 guilds of water transport had risen quickly, transforming with unstoppable momentum from a medium-sized business alliance into the leader of Jiangnan's martial arts circles. Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Though it was trivial for the Jijian Bureau to investigate whomever they wished, it was ultimately more convenient to bring Chu Chu along. He had every story and figure of the Jianghu committed to memory and could rattle off anyone's background and motives with a moment's thought. Even Pei Jingzi was in awe of his abilities. Privately thought that Shu Yue Bureau was indeed full of talent. Love how they just aren't speaking about that elephant in the room, even though pretty much everyone at this point kind of knows. By the time Chu Chu finished speaking, the final call for the bronze wine vessel had gone out, and Lang Du had claimed the item. All had gone as Chu Chu predicted. Chu Chu had always been a pale and sickly person, and the collar of his thick coat was pulled up so high it obscured almost half his face. The mere sight of him slumped in his seat elicited a sympathetic wave of fatigue, yet when he spoke, it was with the clear confidence of a seasoned strategist. Listeners couldn't help but believe him. Feng Xiao clapped his hands in praise. Ah, Chu is really amazing. Out of the masses here, only you possess any flicker of brilliance. I'll give you 3 out of 10. God, he's such an ass. Chu Chu pressed his lips together, refusing to respond. But Feng Xiao wouldn't be denied. He said, "Why don't you ask me where the remaining 7 points are?" "Even without asking, I already know," Chu Chu said icily. Feng Xiao smiled. "It seems you think the same. As they say, heroes are of one mind. 7/10 of the world's brilliance already belongs to me. Thus, the remaining 3/10 goes to you." Of course, there are more fractions, Annika. You can't escape it with this author. They love their fractions. Pei Jingzi listened to these remarks as he might to marketplace rumors, smiling but paying them little mind. To him, the feuds of the Jianghu lay too far to the south and were merely the internal trivialities of this or that guild. They had little to do with the North or Great Sioux. Chu Chu seemed to sense his thoughts. He said evenly, "If the Emperor wishes to invade Chen, he must cross the river southward. Transportation by water will become vitally important. Should that time come, surely dividing these guilds from within and allowing chaos to break out is superior to seeing the 9 guilds of water transport assist the southern dynasty against Great Sioux." Justice for Feng Xiao's subordinate, Pei Jingzi. Yeah, I'll give it to you. Now at 5. Meng Xiao smiled, but said nothing. He had already thought that far ahead. But Pei Jingzi had no such insight. He was stunned and clapped his hands toward Chubuchu. Ah, I see now. Pei Jingzi's first impression of Chubuchu had been that the man couldn't go more than a handful of words without coughing. Though he'd never said so aloud, he'd inevitably found himself looking down on him. After all, the Jijian and Shuyue bureaus were fundamentally unlike the 3 departments and 6 ministries. These sister agencies moved seamlessly between light and shadow. They had to summit the heights of the court while also walking the vastness of the Jianghu. Martial arts weren't a strict necessity, but with no skills at all. It was terrifically difficult to make one's way in martial arts circles, where strength was king. Chubuchu was an exception. This man was from Liuli Palace and knew the Jianghu and its people like the back of his hand, yet he had no martial arts skills of his own. Even now, though Feng Xiao was currently holding him hostage, he showed no sign of being at a disadvantage in word or action. No hint of flattery, nor pleas for mercy. Pei Jingzi felt that for a person like Chubuchu, ignorance of martial arts posed no problem. If they could convince this man to work under their deputy chief, the Jijian Bureau would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Oh, good luck with that after all this. Next up for the auction were 2 antiques, the zither Lu Qi and the sword known as Bai Hong. The zither was a famous one, and the sword was also a quality blade. Countless people jumped in with bids. Feng Xiao seemed mildly interested in Lu Qi and participated in several rounds of bidding. Finally, someone offered 3,000 taels of silver to secure the zither. Feng Xiao immediately dropped it. It seemed his interest didn't extend that far. Chubuchu watched him give up on the zither halfway, though he clearly wanted it, and he couldn't help but shoot him a questioning glance or two. Meng Xiao caught his look, and his lips quirked up in a smile. I can let Lu Qi go. I have a much bigger and better treasure already. Would you like to see it? He's got a lot of phrasings. Chubuchu said nothing. He wasn't usually a person who hesitated to speak. If he wished, his words had the power to strip someone of their dignity and leave them ashen and disgraced. But when it came to dealing with scoundrels like Feng Xiao, he rarely needed to say anything. There had always been someone around to handle such people for him. Now he was like a dragon in shallow waters, temporarily trapped. He had to take action himself to confront Feng Xiao in this war of words. Besides, Chubuchu was no blushing maiden. Why should he give Feng Xiao the satisfaction of a flustered reaction? Oh, Feng Xiao is totally doing this on purpose. This is completely intentional and intentionally worded. Thus, he felt quiet for only a moment before calmly saying, I'm waiting. Please pull it out. Feng Xiao clicked his tongue twice and said, Chu, you're too frivolous. Valuable things deserve respect. How could you tell me to pull it out so crudely? You should tell me to present it instead. I'm afraid if you do, your treasure will shrink to the size of a finger, and I'll be greatly disappointed. I can tell I'm already going to enjoy this. I'm talking about a zither, Feng Xiao exclaimed in surprise. What are you talking about? Chubuchu snorted. I'm also talking about a zither. Why do you think I'm not? Pei Jingzi couldn't bear to listen to their conversation any longer. He raised his teacup to hide his twitching lips. Yeah, that's definitely a point where laughing out loud is reasonable. Feng Xiao looked at Chubuchu with an expression that said, Keep it up, I dare you. And what kind of zither, pray tell, can both grow and shrink? Li Xuanji from Tiangong Workshop has recently invented a folding zither. When fully folded, it's only the size of a palm, but when unfolded, it's the size of a pippa. Feng Lanjun is from the Jijian Bureau. He should know all there is to know in the world. Yet he doesn't know this. Although Li Xuanji is a genius craftsman, my zither is certainly finer than his. Feng Xiao smiled. It's also finer than Lu Qi. Still, Lu Qi is a famous zither. Even seeing it is a rare joy. If I could borrow this instrument and play it for a few days, I'd be even happier. The man who made the winning bid is named Chu Hao. He's the legitimate grandson of the patriarch of the Chu family in Boling, born to the second wife. The 8th day of the next month is his grandfather Chu Yang's birthday. Chu Yang loves the zither more than his life, and he's always loved Chu Hao in the same measure. The obvious conclusion was that Chu Hao had purchased the zither as a gift for his grandfather. That's kind of sweet. I kind of love that. Several more treasures were presented and quickly auctioned off one by one. Anyone who secured an invitation to Ling Ling Pavilion didn't lack for money. In fact, publicly purchasing an item was sometimes a method of flaunting one's name and status, stroking one's vanity. These people rushed to bid on the auctioned items, no matter how expensive. They will be those guys. Most of the buyers were strangers to Feng Xiao and Pei Jingzi, but Chu Buchu recited all their details with ease. With the aid of his introductions, Feng Xiao could make a rough determination as to whether or not each person was connected to the case of the missing jade. Near noon, as the auction reached its halfway point, Lin Lang Pavilion's staff brought plates of hot dishes and snacks to each table. Refreshed and with full stomachs, the crowd's anticipation once again grew over the upcoming treasures. Pei Jingzi could hardly sit still. He was starting to suspect that the Jade of Heaven Lake wouldn't appear here at all. But seeing that Feng Xiao and Chu Buchu remained perfectly composed, he quashed his anxiety and sat back once more. At last, he heard the auctioneer's voice ring out. "The next item is a jade with no origin or name. It was delivered to Linlang Pavilion just yesterday, and Dong Yang Xiansheng has yet to appraise it. Guests purchase this item at your own risk. Whether it is genuine or not, we at Linlang Pavilion take no responsibility. We hope our esteemed guests understand." The man had mentioned this rule before, but now emphasized it again. Many of the more cautious bidders were already shrinking back. The item was removed from its carved lacquer box. When the sunlight streaming through the window rippled over its surface, the crowd gasped in surprise. Now Pei Jingzi really couldn't remain still. He sat straight up and stared at the object in the maid's hand. The Jade of Heaven's Lake! Chapter 15. Chapter 15. As Feng Xiao and Chu Buchu were waiting for the Jade of Heaven's Lake to appear at Linlang Pavilion, a strange guest arrived at Chun Xiang House in Liugong City. The man had a shaved head and held prayer beads in his hand. One couldn't call him a monk because he was wearing common clothing, yet one couldn't say he wasn't, because his expression was serene and devoid of all earthly desire. He didn't look like he'd come for entertainment, but more like he'd come to preach. The house's owner, Madame Shu, had received many odd guests over the years, but this was definitely the first time she'd met one this odd. When she heard a man had ignored their closed doors and proceeded to enter, she pulled her hair haphazardly into a bun, yawned, and walked out under the protection of her armed escort. At the sight of their guest, Madame Shu was momentarily stunned. She buried her anger and donned a smile. Good sir, Chunxiang House doesn't entertain guests during the day. If you're interested, please return around 6 this evening. Zhang Sun Bodhi said, I heard little Yun Yangzi moved half the city with her dancing recently. I came specially to see her. Madame Shu covered her mouth coyly and smiled. Little Yun Yangzi. I'm afraid she's still dawdling at this hour, struggling to get out of bed and put on her makeup. If the regular customers of Chunxiang House had seen the fiery and impatient Madame Shu being this courteous with a man who didn't understand the rules, their jaws would have hit the floor. But though Madame Shu had seen countless people come and go in her time, Zhang Sun Bodhi's handsome face cooled her early morning temper enough that she could greet him with a smile. Oh, she likes his face. Zhang Sun Bodhi frowned slightly. I'm only passing through Liugong City and will be gone by tonight. Can't I meet her just this once? He took out a brocade pouch and handed it to Madame Shu. No worries. When she opened it, she found herself stunned again. The pouch was filled with golden pearls from the South China Sea, round and heavy and glistening in the morning sunlight. Combined with Zhang Sun Bodhi's handsome face, the bag of golden pearls shattered her resistance. Forget Yun Yun. If he had requested Madame Shu herself, she'd have had no objection. Please step this way, sir. I'll call Yun Yun right now. Zhang Sun Bodhi gave a slight nod, his gaze sweeping furtively around the front room. A lithe silhouette flashed past, then vanished from sight. If they'd wished to move in secret, it would of course have been best to come at night. Then there would be people coming and going from Chunxiang House, decked in finery and fragrances, and it'd be easier for Zhang Sun Bodhi and Qiao Xian to conceal their activities. But this advantage cut both ways. Night made it easier for their adversary to hide as well. Zhang Sun and Qiao Xian had discussed it, and they both believed a daytime visit gave them a better chance of catching their target off guard. And perhaps they could even lure the snake from its hole. Chunxiang House was actually a sprawling complex of pavilions connected by winding walkways and corridors. A fragrance hung in the air, giving visitors the impression of beauties tucked away in their boudoirs. I know it's French. Boudoirs. There we go. But as Zhang Sun walked behind Madame Shu, he only thought that this place had too many concealed corners and hidden nooks. Even if a martial expert sought someone here, as long as their target held their breath and stayed still, the sounds of the birds, fish, and insects would provide cover, and they might avoid discovery. This is Yun Yun's residence. You may go up, though she might not be awake yet, Madame Shu said with a smile. Yun Yun was both a performer and a prostitute, and she wasn't a woman just anyone could have. But Zhang Shun had been too extravagant in offering this pouch of golden pearls right off the bat. There was only one Yun Yun, yet it could have purchased 10 of her. Madame Shu took her leave. Zhang Sun knocked twice and the door opened promptly. A young girl stood in the doorway. I'm here to see Yun Yun. The girl was immediately angry. Sir, you don't know the rules. The mistress doesn't entertain customers before dark. Please leave or I'll call someone over. Madame Shu brought me here." The girl was stunned. Her anger turned to sadness, but in a flash, too, that was gone. Her face smoothed to placidity as she said, "My apologies. Please come in, sir. May I trouble you to wait in the front room for a moment? Little Yunyun Niangzi has not yet risen, so I will go and wake her up." Zhang Sun nodded. "Thank you." The women in such houses took a great deal of care when dressing and adorning themselves. He settled in to wait. Zhang Sun looked around and saw a potted winter sweet plum before the window. He was curious to see it blooming in spring. He stepped over for a look and realized that they were silk flowers, but finely crafted. The evenness of their color and the variety of shades made them indistinguishable from the real thing. "Do you think they're pretty?" came a gentle and melodious female voice from behind him. "I do," Zhang Shun Bodhi turned to look at her. "Did you make them yourself?" Yun smiled without speaking. Her dark hair had been casually pulled into a knot, and an outer garment draped loosely over a thin robe, creating an aura of languid intimacy. "As long as they're pretty, does it matter where they came from? Why has this gentleman arrived before evening? Did Madame Shu not stop you?" Zhang Sun Bodhi's answer was typically concise. "A bag of golden pearls." Yun understood at once. A giggle slipped from her. No wonder Madame Shu was willing to make an exception. She moved to hold Zhang Sun's hand, pressing herself against him. No matter how enthralling Yun's dancing might be, what most of the men willing to spend thousands on her wanted was her body. The pleasure of a woman could be more cheaply obtained elsewhere. The real reason men flocked to her was to satisfy their ego by possessing her. Yun understood this well, so she didn't play hard to get like other girls of this dance house. But Zhang Sun Bodhi pushed her hand away. "I wish to see you dance." Yun sputtered out a laugh. "Is the gentleman shy? Does he wish to see a dance first? That's also fine. However, there's no accompanying music here. I'll have to ask my maid to play the pipa." "I'm not shy," said Zhang Sun Bodhi, "and I'm not putting on a virtuous act. I simply wish to see you dance." His expression was placid and unsmiling, yet this somehow gave more weight to his words. "Do you remember this?" He took a golden hairpin from his sleeve and handed it to her. A look of confusion passed over Yun's face. Then her expression slowly cleared as if recalling something. "You can't be the one in the alley on the east side." Zhang Sun nodded. 8 years ago, there was a young man living on the streets, starving and cold, close to death. You gave him a golden hairpin from your own hair and told him to pawn it to weather those difficult times. Later, when his circumstances improved, he repurchased the hairpin and kept it with him always. Today, that young man has come to return it to you and finish what he started." Yun stared at the golden hairpin for a long time. Tears brimmed in her eyes, rolling down her cheeks to fall onto Zhang Sun Bodhi's palm. "It's been 8 years. You've become a strong and stalwart man, while I've grown old." "If you wish, I can redeem you," said Zhang Sun. Yun wiped at her tears and smiled as she shook her head. "I love the life I have, where everyone's eyes are on me and I can indulge in what luxuries I wish. You needn't worry about me. Keep this golden hairpin to remember me by. What dance do you want to see? I'll perform it for you." Yeah, no, this is so sweet. After this reminiscence, Yunyu's attitude toward Zhang Sun Bodhi had become genuinely intimate. No longer was she so distantly polite as she had been at the beginning. Zhang Sun gazed at her intently for a moment, then tucked the golden hairpin back in his sleeve. "In that case, I'd like a dance to the song The Drunken East Wind." Okay. So just a little note. In ancient China, poems were often composed to certain established tunes, of which the Drunken East Wind was one. Yeah, that's so sweet. Lin Lang Pavilion was a flurry of chatter. The quiet scene had boiled over. People craned their necks to get a look at this luxurious or lustrous crystalline jade in the maid's hand. Any further introduction from the auctioneer was unnecessary. Even those who knew nothing about jade could see that this was a priceless treasure. So that's what the jade of Heaven Lake looks like? Pagingzi asked. It was true that they'd speculated that the jade of Heaven Lake would appear at the auction, but none of them had imagined it to be so openly. Oh, actually, I'm going to mark our whole interaction that we just had as one justice to service workers because that was really cute and really sweet, and repaying a debt. So I'm being lenient, and that's a justice to service workers because my heart. Okay. If the Jijian Bureau simply shut down the auction and took the jade away, wouldn't their adversaries' careful planning have all been in vain? He immediately considered the possibility that it was a fake. But since Linling Pavilion had brought the item out, there was no going back. Whether it was real or fake, they would have to obtain the jade to verify it. Due to the unknown provenance of this item, Linlang Pavilion isn't confident in our appraisal. The starting price is therefore lower than the other treasures we've seen here today, tentatively set at 5,000. If any honored guest is interested in increasing the price, please make your bid. As the auctioneer finished, someone called out a bid of 6,000 coppers, and the price began to climb. Soon it had increased to 50,000, but the hall roiled and the bids kept coming. Clearly, the bidding wouldn't conclude any time soon. Even Lin Yang, who'd stayed out of the spotlight, joined in and called out a bid of 100,000. Someone immediately bid up the price again. Even if it wasn't the jade of Heaven Lake, a jade as precious as this one still had countless people vying for it. Additionally, news of the theft of the jade of Heaven Lake had spread underground, and quite a few well-informed people had caught wind of it. Despite the caveats of the auctioneer, the jade quickly became more coveted than any of the previous items. Pagingzi began. Sir, should we wait a little longer? Said Feng Xiao. The bidding had reached 3,000 taels of silver. Feng Xiao saw the bidders were restless and eager to continue. On his orders, Pagingzi called out a bid of 5,000 taels, throwing in 10 golden pearls from the South China Sea for good measure. The hall fell instantly silent as the crowd turned to look towards the source of this outrageous bid. Chubachu tugged his coat further up around his chin and turned aside, avoiding the many unwanted stares. Feng Xiao leaned over deliberately. You're not some young maiden. Why act so shy? But are they not even allowed to look at you? You're so flashy, Chubuchu said coldly. I fear if I'm seen with you, I'll end up dead in my bed one night with no one the wiser. Feng Xiao chuckled and looped an arm around his waist. Then you can share a bed with me, he said silkily. I can guarantee you a peaceful night's sleep. Suddenly, Chubuchu stood and slapped Feng Xiao solidly across the face. The move was so blisteringly fast, not even Feng Xiao, the martial arts master, could react in time. He'd taken half the force of the blow before he managed to flinch backward. Shameless cad! Sleeping with my little sister wasn't enough for you, so now you're coming after me? This humble Taoist fled all the way to Liugong City, yet I still can't escape you. Is there no law or order in this world? Chubuchu was in full view of the crowd, his tone severe and his expression fearsome. His face was white with anger, bringing to mind a slender stalk of bamboo and snow, brittle yet refusing to break. Feng Xiao was struck speechless. Literally! He hadn't anticipated that Chubuchu's silent forbearance had simply been him biding his time for this moment. All eyes were on Feng Xiao, and his image in them had completely transformed. Now this is truly awful luck, Feng Xiao thought to himself. Playing with fire and burning myself. That's a first. This image is great. Amazing illustration. Love it. Love it to pieces. Oh my goodness. Especially all the anime sparkles. And him just being like, huh? 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 Oh my goodness. I think this is my favorite illustration so far of this book. This is great. Amazing. Chubuchu looks so wronged. He does. Okay, chapter 16. 141. 30. Chapter 16. Chubuchu's accusations trailed off as he covered his mouth to cough. One cough followed another, each more punishing than the last. He was forced to double over, coughing until his body trembled, like frost-rimmed bamboo struggling in the wind. In the past 2 months, Xia Monastery's reputation in Liugong City had soared. Though not all those present were locals, there were plenty who recognized Chubuchu. They called out, "Abbot Chu, what's wrong? Do you need help?" To think someone would commit such filthy and despicable acts in broad daylight. "Abbot Chu, come downstairs quick. We'll report it to the county magistrate this instant," someone else chimed in. Chubuchu coughed a few times, then smiled bitterly. "This is Feng Langjun from the Jijian Bureau. He's been ordered to investigate the Cotonese envoy's murder case. He insists I'm related to the case and has detained me against my will. Going to the county magistrate would be pointless. Thank you, everyone, for your kindness. I just really can't bear it." His eyes were watering with how violently he'd been coughing, but no one cared about the reason. All they saw were Chubuchu's wan complexion and his piteous appearance, tears clinging to his eyelashes. Even Li Yang, who thought highly of Feng Xiao, couldn't help wondering if Feng Xiao only looked like he had high standards and in fact had some peculiar fetishes. Oh my gosh, my tattoo is so itchy today. Not only did he pay no mind to gender, he had specifically gone for a barely breathing invalid. I mean, we've learned from this Thousand Autumns that some people are very, very into that. If that was the way of it, Feng Xiao's rejection of him made sense too. Lin Yang had begun to seriously contemplate whether he should start acting like an ailing beauty when Chubuchu revealed Feng Xiao's background and gave him yet another shock. The Lin family had connections in the palace. Lin Yang was far better informed than the average member of the Jianku. He was therefore aware of the significance of the name Jijian Bureau. To think, he'd known nothing of Feng Xiao's identity, yet held such improper intentions towards him. Reflection, he couldn't help finding his own bloated self-confidence rather laughable. The Linlang Pavilion auction had been brought to a halt. Even the auctioneer, a capable man, prepared for all sorts of contingencies, found himself stunned and unsure what to do. That is, until Feng Xiao laughed. "Who says you can't have your cake and eat it too? Your little sister's a fair and lovely thing, and you're a brilliant man. What's wrong with having both of you? The Jijian Bureau's status under the Emperor is high enough that I can do as I please. Why call on the law for something so trivial, Chu? I've already trained your sister. Now it's your turn. If you come with me willingly, I'll guarantee that from now on you'll live a life of luxury and never suffer the slightest indignity. I mean, this is an indignity. What do you call it? He smiled evilly at Chubuchu, as if Chubuchu really did have a sister Feng Xiao had abducted and kept as his personal property. You have your schemes, but I have my countermeasures. Aren't we both tearing each other down? Who's afraid of you? Feng Xiao's improv skills are ridiculously good. Yeah, he literally took it on the chin and kept going. Chubuchu sneered. But is this the proper way to court someone? My sister told me that when she was with you, you had strange secret hobbies. Not only did you enjoy stripping down and letting her whip you, you wanted the whipping to be as painful as possible. If it wasn't painful enough, you'd torment her within an inch of her life in bed. Aren't you afraid outsiders will find out about that? The hall erupted. Pei Jingzi was completely numb, watching without expression as these two engaged in public mutilation of each other's reputations. Li Yong's mouth was agape. He looked utterly dumbfounded. Never had he expected Feng Xiao, with his dignified air and lofty demeanor, to have such private hobbies. Lin Yong considered his own situation. While being a cut sleeve wasn't something he could openly tell others, at least he was more normal in other areas. Feng Xiao's mouth twitched. He thought his reflexes fast, his willingness to debase himself strong. Yet now he realized there was always a higher mountain, always a greater man. This Chubuchu had appeared like a bolt from the blue, and he was somehow even readier to debase himself than Feng Xiao. The two stared at each other, locked in a stalemate. Finally, Feng Xiao decided to call a temporary truce. They must first deal with the business at hand. He flicked his sleeves and said to the auctioneer, "These are my private affairs. No one else need concern themselves. If anyone has doubts they'd like to air, they may come to the Jiajian Bureau. Today's auction is not over yet." Oh my gosh, it's so itchy. I do like the dueling slanders type trope. Yes. Oh, itch. It's at the, for those who know tattoos, it's at the peeling stage, so it's like when you have bad sunburn. And it's like you're not supposed to itch it, but I'm like, pull the sleeve down. Today's auction is not over. Surely it can't end here in such disarray. The auctioneer came to his senses and hastily said, "Oh, of course! We still have no idea to which family this beautiful jade will go. Please take your seats, such honored guests." Chubuchu sat down once more, his expression serene. Falling into Feng Xiao's hands had been unexpected, but the plan he'd laid out was still in play. He, too, was a pawn in this game. He couldn't extricate himself too early. Still, getting under Feng Xiao's skin in the process wasn't a bad deal at all. At the auctioneer's reminder, the crowd finally settled. No one made a higher bid for the jade, so Feng Xiao won it without further disruption. Several more treasures were unveiled, and the crowd began vying for them, but Feng Xiao no longer participated. He waited for the auction to end, then swept out of Lin Lang's pavilion's auction hall and returned to Chu Shan Manor with Pei Jingzi and Chubuchu trailing behind him. Abbot Chu's tongue is too sharp. You ruined my lord's reputation with that little speech. Pei Jingzi recalled the scene at the table and felt a wave of frustration. His tongue wasn't so quick as Feng Xiao's, and at the time, he hadn't managed to think of anything impactful to say. And if he'd struck Chubuchu, it would only have reinforced his claims. My body is still full of the incense of helplessness you drugged me with. Am I not permitted to vent my anger? I could have vomited blood back there to substantiate my words. that I didn't was already showing you more respect than you deserve. Chubuchu's expression was mild, without the rancor he'd previously affected. He sat there, all his previous intensity extinguished, as tranquil as the distant, misty mountains. Pei Jingzi was deeply unhappy. Then go ahead and vomit some blood. Let's see it. As soon as he said it, Chubuchu opened his mouth and coughed. Red seeped between his lips and splattered over his clothes. Pei Jingzi practically leapt 3 feet into the air, ready to run up to Chubuchu and check his vitals. Feng Xiao's voice drifted over. Fool, it's just mulberry juice. Getting a hold of himself, Pei Jingzi examined it. The color was indeed not the dark crimson of blood, but instead a purplish red. Pei Jingzi was silent. Chubuchu raised his sleeve and calmly wiped the juice from his lips. He didn't seem the slightest bit embarrassed at being exposed. Pardon, I choked. Pei Jingzi's eye twitched uncontrollably as he remembered that, back at Ling Lang Pavilion, the maid had brought out several fruit drinks. Chubuchu had asked for mulberry juice. But to keep the juice in his mouth for that long, only to spit it out now, who would do such a thing? That is kind of an impressive skill, not gonna lie. Feng Xiao only smiled. Oh, Chu, I find you more and more pleasing to the eye. You really won't consider joining the Jijian Bureau? The position of 4th Chief is waiting for you. The words of an upright gentleman are like swift horses. Once released, they can't be taken back. He is definitely committed to the bit. Upright gentleman? Are you one? All right, said Feng Xiao. Even if I'm not an upright gentleman, the words of a scoundrel are surely worth a horse or two, no? Or is your standing within the Shu Yue Bureau higher than I imagined? I've already said I've never heard of any Shu Yue Bureau. Then let's talk about the jade. Feng Xiao gestured for Pei Jingzi to place the jade he'd brought onto the table. It shimmered in the sunlight, scattering rays in all directions. They could almost see their own reflections in the jade's lustrous surface. Earlier, 6 people joined the bidding, including me. Do you know who they were? Chubuchu hummed in affirmation. Lin Yang from Yandang Mountain Estate, Shou Pei, a wealthy merchant from Khotan, Chu Hao from the Chu family of Boling, Go Niyang, Go Gieron, and Zhang Yingshui from the Zhang family of Anlu. He clearly expected the question and reported each person's name and background without a moment's hesitation. Whom among them do you find most suspicious? Pei Jingzi had thought Chubuchu would retort with something like, how should I know? But for once, he cooperated. Shou Pei. His father is a Gokturk, and they say he's the younger cousin of Fo Er, the foremost martial artist under Ishbara Kagan. He's the most suspicious, along with the martial artist from Goguryeo, Go Niang. Go Niang. I have no idea if I'm saying Go Niang's name correct, but that is how he is going to be pronounced from now on. Okay. Chapter 17. Zhang Sun Bodhi wasn't a man who indulged in pleasure. In the eyes of others, he was ascetic. At the Zhu Yue Bureau, he spent his spare time brewing tea and reciting scripture, his days more monotonous than a monk's. He didn't consider this lifestyle punishment. In fact, he was quite content. Yet at that moment, he was sitting within a boudoir men flocked to, watching a dance that had bewitched half the city. Snow-white ankles twirled and golden bells jingled. Despite the sensual atmosphere, Zhang Sun wasn't relaxed. He sat straight as a poker, hands clasped together and prayer beads tucked against his palms, watching with rapt attention. He looked less like he was enjoying a dance and more like he was watching a demonstration of unparalleled martial arts. The maiden Yun Yun had danced for all sorts at Chunxiang House. Even under his scorching gaze, she finished her dance with grace. Was it beautiful? She asked with a smile, taking the handkerchief from her maid and dabbing at the slight sheen of sweat on her forehead. It was, Zhang Sun said, only 2 words, but to Yun Yun's ears, they were far more sincere than the lengthy and extravagant praise she received from others. Then tonight, she stopped. It wasn't the first time she'd tried to keep a guest, but for some reason she found herself unable to go on. Perhaps it was because Zhang Sun's expression was so solemn. How could he possibly be there to sleep with a prostitute? Though the city had praised Maiden Yun Yun's dancing to the skies, extolled her as a treasure money couldn't buy, Yun Yun herself understood that she was no more than a drifting piece of duckweed. She had no control over her fate, no choice but to struggle fugitively in a fisherman's net. Zhang Sun suddenly leaned in. Yun Yun's composure shattered. Heat rushed from her neck to her cheeks, and her body stopped obeying her orders. She found herself unable to retreat, frozen at his proximity, as his proximity overwhelmed her. Yun Yun's face was scarlet. "Oh, the fragrance you are wearing," said Zhang Sun. "It's very unique." Yun Yun's face was scarlet, and her ears were hot. Yes, it's the same scent of mandarins with a note of grass and trees. It's lovely scent. Now the two of them were practically pressed up against each other. A strong arm looped around Yun Yun's slender waist, fixing her to the spot. Yet her heart beat faster and faster. This man was more handsome, more full of strength and vigor than anyone she'd ever met. They were even linked by fate. "Did you create this perfume yourself?" Zhang Sun Bodhi asked. Confused and infatuated, Yun Yun dropped her guard entirely. No, someone created it for me." "Ask her to make one for me as well." "All right," Yun Yun murmured. Puzzled, she realized he'd released her. "It's not yet dark," said Zhang Sun. Yun Yun flushed. It was true that it was inappropriate to indulge in such activities during the day. Even if propriety was of little concern within Chunxiang House, she wanted to leave the best possible impression on Zhang Sun. "Then what does the gentleman wish to do? Shall I perform another dance for you?" She tucked her hair back, her crimson lips lightly parted. "I wish to paint you," said Zhang Sun Bodhi. Yun Yun was taken aback. "I've seen the dancers and musicians of the palace," he said, "and you are just as skilled as them. I wish to paint you so you can see what I see." If a promiscuous young master had uttered those words, she'd have brushed them aside with a smile. But Zhang Sun Bodhi's gaze was steady, his expression earnest. She believed him completely. No one had ever said they wished to paint her before. Yun Yun lowered her head in thought. When she looked up again, it was with a radiant smile. "All right." Outside, the maid Hongzhu had approached with food and wine only to find the doors tightly shut. No sound could be heard from within. She stopped, feeling a hint of nervous excitement, then quietly nudged the door open a crack with her shoulder and peered inside the gauzy curtains. Yet she didn't see the amorous scene she'd imagined. Instead, Yun Yun was posing with her back to the door. Hong Shu snuck a peek at the uninvited customer who'd barged in, offering a huge sum of money. He wasn't embracing or kissing the beauty. Instead, he was standing before the desk, brush sweeping back and forth as he painted. Hong Shu watched the hazy outline of Zhang Sun Bodhi for a while, her eyes filled with unconcealed envy. But the pair inside the room continued, oblivious to their audience. Finally, she grew bored. Pursing her lips, she turned and left soundlessly, taking the food and drink back to her own room to enjoy. She was completely unaware of another white figure had been watching behind her. Initially, Qiao Xian had wanted to restrain and question the maid, but on seeing her actions, she reconsidered. Everyone had their weaknesses. Having weaknesses wasn't frightening, but being unable to find them was. And Hong Shu's weakness was obvious. Questioning her using a different method might be more effective. But back at Chu Shan Manor, Chu Buchu looked at the suspected jade of Heaven Lake and said slowly, Goguryeo is currently ruled by Go Tang as King Paiyangwun of Goguryeo, the 25th generation ruler. Go is a Goguryeo surname, though few people in the Central Plains know Go Niang. He's quite famous in Goguryeo. It's said that he achieved transcendence in his swordsmanship and defeated 12 preeminent experts in the three kingdoms of Goguryeo, Baekji and Silla, in the space of 10 days. Paiyangwun was delighted and bestowed the title of Goguryeo's #1 sword expert on him. He's even permitted to carry a sword and ride horses within the palace grounds. In Goguryeo, this is the highest of honors. Pei Jingzi, who had just been the victim of Chu Buchu's little prank, was still unhappy. He said irritably, Goguryeo is a nation in a small corner of the northeast. I fear their naming someone a preeminent expert is no more than a boast. He can't compare to the martial artists of the Central Plains. Chu Buchu gave a rare nod of agreement. Correct. However, it is highly likely Go Niang is after the jade's medicinal properties. Like all martial artists, he wishes to climb to higher heights. It's not uncommon for martial artists to plateau and make no more progress their entire lives. With the jade's assistance, perhaps he can find a shortcut to the heavens. But that's only hearsay, said Pei Jingzi. No one knows whether that jade really has such a power. Hearsay is enough. As long as there's some hope, there will be people willing to take risks. Feng Xiao rapped on the table. Back to the matter at hand. What do you think? If you wanted to steal something, would you expose it to the public eye and draw out everyone's attention? Pei Jingzi considered it. I'd have someone inside Ling Lang Pavilion to have the jade listed as one of the auction items, then quietly snatch it out from under their noses. A connection with Ling Lang Pavilion would also make it easier to avoid detection when leaving the city. The head broker, Wen Liang, would have been able to do it, but he's still in prison. Could it be that Wen Liang's arrest ruined their plans, and that's why the jade appeared at the auction? Feng Xiao shook his head. Things couldn't be that simple. He was certain he'd missed a link somewhere. This case looked straightforward at a glance. A murder and a robbery. But as he disentangled each element bit by bit, he realized how intricate it was. Thread wound tightly around thread. Whenever they managed to hit on a promising lead, it was upended the next moment. Feng Xiao felt the presence of several invisible hands all trying to scrabble the chessboard. Some attempted to conceal their own motives, while others attempted to obscure the facts of the case. At that thought, he couldn't help looking at Chu Buchu. Chu Buchu noticed his gaze and met it, frank and impassive. Each suppressed a cold smile. Damn fox, Feng Xiao thought, sneering to himself. Swaggering oleander spirit, Chu curved his lips in secret amusement. The oleander flower, beautiful but toxic. It was perfect for Feng Xiao. Pei Jingzi paid no heed to the undercurrents surging between the two. After a long bout of careful consideration, he asked hesitantly, "Could there be two Jades of Heaven Lake? A fake we have here and a real one elsewhere?" Highly likely. I'm going to look up what oleander actually looks like because I'm intrigued. One second. Oleander plant. Okay. So there's this image. So this is oleander. But then also you have, so that's the plant. But then there's also like flowering oleander. So like trees. With like that being looks like, huh. Interesting. Nerium oleander, commonly known as oleander, is a popular drought-tolerant evergreen bush or small tree, valued for its showy, fragrant flowers in warm climates, but all parts of the plant are highly poisonous if ingested, and its sap can cause skin irritation. It's known for its resilience in heat, sun, and poor soil, making it a common choice for hedges, screens, and containers, though it requires careful handling due to its toxicity to humans and animals. Sounds like a poor plan if you have any kind of animal near you or children. Huh, grow wild in California. Interesting. I can see that with how hot it gets. I have not heard of it, but I can definitely add it to the to watch list. White oleander. White oleander. Thank you for all of the recommendations you give, Truffle. Okay. All right. All right. One sip and then. Okay. My heating pad is turned off, so 1 second. Okay. Chapter 18. A single brilliant treasure like this was hard enough to come by. Where would they find another? Chubuchu reached out and laid his hand over the jade. The chill of it seeped into his palm. None of them had seen the real Jade of Heaven Lake before, so it was impossible to know whether this was the genuine article. "What did Lin Lang Pavilion say?" asked Feng Xiao. "When I asked, they said all the treasures at this auction were handled by the head broker, Wen Liang. So I went to investigate Wen Liang again, and he said this item was delivered to them yesterday by an old servant in gray. It was brought to them in an ordinary wooden chest, and the men claimed it was a family heirloom. He said his master's household was in decline, and he therefore been ordered to sell the jade to a pawnbroker, relinquishing their claim to it for good. Lin Lang Pavilion would normally never accept goods from unknown sources. If it became known that they sold stolen items, that would damage their reputation. However, because the item had arrived on their doorstep on the eve of the annual auction, Wen Liang considered carefully. He concluded that even if the item were stolen, the owner might be present at the auction and recognize it. If so, it would make returning the jade easy. He therefore decided to include it in the auction. What if he decided not to put it up for bidding? Asked Chubuchu. What would Lin Liang Pavilion have done with it? According to Lin Lang Pavilion's rules, they would hold it for 1 year, said Pei Jingzi. If no owner came to claim it, it would then be auctioned off. So they only moved the date forward by a year. Is Khotan still sending another envoy? Asked Chubuchu. Paging Z looked at Feng Xiao and saw him nod. Yes. The new envoy dispatched by the king of Khotan is already on his way. We sent someone to receive him in Chiemo, but it will take 3 or more days for them to reach Liugong City. Until he arrived, no one could prove the jade in front of them was the true jade of heaven. Chubuchu stroked the jade and said slowly, After you won the auction today, at least 10 people had their eyes on you. 3 looked dissatisfied, but 2 held murderous intent. He noticed all that. Paging Z was shocked. He couldn't stop himself from asking, who? Chubuchu didn't hold back. The 3 people who frowned in dissatisfaction were the young leader of Jinhuan Guild, Lang Du, the wealthy businessman from Khotan, Zhou Pei, and Zhang Yingshui from the Zhang family of Anlu. Of the 2 with murderous intent, one was a Gokturk man dressed in black, while the other was a man in his mid-20s dressed in gray and wearing a bamboo hat. I've never seen either of them before. Their faces don't stand out, and they didn't do anything to give away their training, so I cannot guess as to their identities. Gokturk man? Paging Z looked suddenly wary. But Feng Xiao was amused. Whether or not this Jade of Heaven Lake is the real one, now that it's in my hands, we can expect plenty of people to come knocking. Correct, said Chubuchu. Paging Z was alarmed. They dare make enemies of the Jian Bureau? Chubuchu laughed mockingly. The Jian Bureau's authority comes from the emperor. The various ministries might be willing to tiptoe around you because of it, but what meaning does that hold in the Jianghu? If the jade really does have the power to purify the body or bring the dead back to life, of course they won't hesitate to steal it. Paging Z opened his mouth to refute it, but couldn't think of anything to say. At that moment, Feng Xiao chuckled. The weather is cold, the dew heavy. You've been outside listening to us for so long. Why not come in for a cup of hot tea? There was someone outside. Paging Z's ears pricked up. He had no small skill himself, but throughout the entire conversation, he hadn't noticed any sounds from without. A blithe female voice rang out, clear spring water. I'm afraid the house is too crowded. There's nowhere to sit. There really was someone there. Paging Z leapt up. Feng Xiao snatched the wooden chest off the table and flung it at the door. Obviously, he wasn't trying to smash a hole through the door and hit the person outside. The box hit the door just so, and it flew open. The skillful display of strength was something only a martial arts expert could achieve. The wind swept into the house through the opening, and they beheld, on the eaves of the building opposite, a woman in yellow. She sat looking at them, languidly swinging her legs back and forth. Her face was ordinary, her features unexceptional. Comparing her to Feng Xiao was like comparing a clod of mud to a cloud, but her voice was unmistakable. My apologies for disturbing you this late at night. Perhaps Feng Lang Jun would allow me a glimpse of the jade. Then I'll leave without delay. Paging Z followed Feng Xiao as he stepped through the door. He'd noticed instantly that the woman in yellow wasn't the only one outside. 3 more people waited in the dark. One stood on the left rooftop, one on the right, and a third was behind a tree. The first wore a hat with a white veil. They were clad in white from head to toe, and it was impossible to tell if they were a man or a woman. The second was a tall man with wheat-colored hair. It was clear at a glance he was foreign, a Gokturk. The last was another man dressed in gray, his face frosty and his thin lips drawn into a line. A deep scar ran between his brows, and he wore a long sword at his side. So many martial experts were just outside, and yet Pei Jingzi had failed to notice. He couldn't even sense them. If a fight broke out, he would be of no assistance to Feng Xiao. All the hair on Pei Jingzi's body stood on end. The woman in yellow seemed to take note of his nervousness. She chuckled. Fear not, young man. I came alone. I'm not with them. Chubachu gave two quiet coughs and slowly stepped outside. Everyone was dressed in thin clothing, as if it was the height of summer. In contrast, Chubachu was tightly swaddled in a thick coat, his face the color of snow. It was clear at a glance that he was chronically ill. He looked like a man with only a few days left to live. Then there were his footsteps, utterly insubstantial and lacking even a trace of the power and surety one would expect of a martial artist. Everyone's gazes alighted on him, then flitted away, paying him no further heed. So we have a picture of a very lovely back and two vague figures and our boys. Let me focus it correctly. There we go. Definitely what a crowd. I kind of do feel bad for Pei Jingzi. Like, he's always getting tripped up. Feng Xiao strolled forward, hands clasped behind his back. He showed no hint of nervousness. Rather, it was as if he'd been looking forward to this night for a long time. His eyes were sparkling with amusement. There are still two more. Why don't you all just come out at once? No one spoke as they waited for the two he'd addressed to appear. The silence stretched for a long moment before a shape emerged from a dark corner. The figure might have been that of a tall and slender woman. Half their body remained cloaked in darkness beyond the reach of the moonlight, as if they belonged in the shadow. Who else is there? Pei Jingzi demanded. Can you only hide like a rat? The last person has already left, said the woman in yellow. If I'm not mistaken, they were an assassin from the 13 floors of Yun Hai. At the sound of that name, both Feng Xiao and Chubachu's expressions shifted. The 13 floors of Yun Hai was a new and rising sect in the Jianghu. They worked in secret, and their main business was providing killers for hire. There would always be people whose existence was an obstacle to others, but it wasn't always convenient to remove the obstacle oneself. Perhaps some even lacked the ability to do so. Hence, the 13 floors of Yunhai came to be. Rumor has it that business was booming for the 13 floors of Yunhai. They had grown increasingly audacious and even dared to target court officials. Last month, an official from the Ministry of Justice had passed away suddenly. A discreet investigation from the Jijian Bureau had found the cause of death irregular. They suspected murder. Thanks to that, the 13 floors of Yunhai had carved their mark in the case files of the Jijian Bureau's deputy chief. Assassinations were a shady business. This opponent had realized Feng Xiao was no easy target, not to mention the other experts on the scene tonight. It made sense that they'd seen the confrontation wouldn't go smoothly and chosen to leave first. But that was one. 5 still remained. Chubachu looked around furtively, then coughed softly twice, suppressing a smile tinged with malicious glee. Now, how will the Oleander spirit deal with this gathering of heroes? That was a rather short chapter, not gonna lie. All right. 1915. We're gonna take a quick sip. For 19, Qiao Xian sat in the tea house, staring dazedly down into her cup. The amber liquid rippled, reflecting the evening sunset. Gradually, the sun sank below the horizon. The stall-keeper lit the candles, then asked Qiao Xian if she'd like a hot bowl of noodles. She declined. Qiao Xian wasn't accustomed to the taste of this tea, bitter with a hint of salt. At the Zhu Yue Bureau, everyone knew the Lord Chief's subordinate, Qiao Xian, loved sour plum soup. But this was a remote area, at a time of year when the chill had yet to subside. There was not a drop of sour plum soup to be found. Raising her bowl for the 5th time, Qiao Xian took a tiny sip of the tea, then frowned and put it down. At that moment, the person she was waiting for finally appeared. She watched Zhang Sun Bodhi step out of Chunxiang house from afar, then stride unhurriedly towards the tea house where they'd agreed to meet. "You're an hour late," she said as soon as Zhang Sun sat down. "You're early. What did you learn?" Zhang Sun hesitated, a rare sight. The fragrance she wears was created by a woman called Me.Mimo. Me.Mimo is familiar with many types of perfumes and capable of creating unique scents. Yun was able to distinguish herself among Chunxiang's house top courtesans recently, partially thanks to her perfumes. Had Chubuchu or Feng Xiao been there, the name Miao Niangzi would have instantly called to mind Lady Qin Miao Yun, the Khotanese envoy's concubine who'd disappeared. But they were far on the other side of the city, and Zhang Sun and Qiao Xian had no way of knowing that name's significance. Even so, they could more or less guess Chubuchu's intentions in sending them to investigate the cold plum blossom fragrance. This Miao Niangzi must be related to the person the Lord Chief is looking for. But you wasted half the day with Yun Niangzi, and this is all you have to show for it? Zhang Sun Bodhi shot her a look that seemed to say, "And what did you find yourself?" "I planned to follow her maid," said Qiao Xian. "When I saw her standing outside little Yun Niangzi's room, all envy and dissatisfaction, I changed my plans. I pretended to be an injured man from the Jianghu who mistakenly entered Chunxiang House and begged her to treat me. I was so pitiful she dropped her guard, and I coaxed some information out of her." As a woman, Qiao Xian was a cold, untouchable beauty. When she disguised herself as a man, that quality became an aura of cold austerity that drove women crazy. In fact, the longer one looked at Qiao Xian, the more androgynous she seemed. She would be an amazing cosplayer. For the first time, Zhang Sun Bodhi's gaze lingered on her face. Confusion surfaced on his features. Which are you, a man or a woman?" "You've been practicing Buddhism for how long?" said Qiao Xian coolly. "Don't you know all things are ephemeral, and all appearances but empty vanity?" Zhang Sun silently turned the prayer beads in his hand and murmured a few amitabhas. "You're right. I have strayed. My training is not yet complete." Qiao Xian was surprised. "Did nothing happen between you and that little Yun Niangzi?" "After questioning her, I tapped her sleep acupoint and left," Zhang Sun said placidly. "Once Yun awakened, she might remember Zhang Sun Bodhi, but she wouldn't remember how she fell asleep. She'd only remember it as a spring night filled with romance, a dream that left no trace. They'd never see each other again." Could they maybe see each other like some other time? Happily? Maybe once? Boo. Zhang Sun Bodhi sank into reverie, but was quickly pulled back by the roughness of the prayer beads in his hand. "What did you find?" he asked belatedly, though he rarely took the initiative to inquire. "I asked about the whereabouts of this Miao Niangzi. She said Yun Yun had secretly purchased a private manor. Originally, she planned to live there after redeeming herself and earning her freedom. But she had established herself at Chunxiang House with Miao Niangzi's help, so she returned the favor and recently invited Miao Niangzi to take up temporary residence at the manor. I, too, would like to see just who this Miao Niangzi is. Zhang Sun Bodhi's expression asked, "It's already dark, so why aren't we going?" Qiao Xian didn't answer. Instead, she called the owner over and asked for 2 bowls of noodle soup. "It's still early. We can leave after we eat." Zhang Sun Bodhi nodded. In truth, obtaining intelligence like this through conversation was not his strong suit. Given the choice, he'd much rather take up a weapon and fight the enemy head-on. Yun Yun had been stunningly cooperative, but when he walked out of Chunxiang House, his tightly pursed lips had betrayed his nervousness. Only now did he finally relax. Oh, he's shy! Qiao Xian regarded him for a moment and said, "The Shuyue Bureau still has fewer people than the Jijian Bureau. If the Lord Chief could find more subordinates with both wit and courage, perhaps he wouldn't need to personally carry out his strategies as he has this time. Compared to seeing him confined to bed for weeks at a time, I'd rather see him run around. At least that would mean he wasn't sick as often." It was rare to hear Zhang Sun say such a long sentence. Qiao Xian frowned. But he can't be having a good time with Feng Xiao. As they spoke, the noodles arrived. They set the conversation aside and silently applied themselves to their meal. The noodles were plain, ordinary noodles. The quality of the flour couldn't compare to the flour of the capital, and the soup base was boiled well water. Ugh. Some green onions and vegetables had been scattered over top, but there was not a sliver of meat to be seen. It was a meal to sate the common people. These noodles were much worse than anything Zhang Sun and Qiao Xian were used to eating. But in the face of hunger and cold, a bowl of hot soup warmed the stomach, wiping away fatigue and enveloping them in coziness. Qiao Xian and Zhang Sun Bodhi both had the same thought. If only the Lord Chief were here. Where he was, would anyone offer him a bowl of hot noodle soup? I like that they legitimately care for Lord Chief. True. At least the well water was boiled. Very true. I don't like how at least the well water around here, it has a aftertaste, almost sulfuric, and it always makes me think of copper pennies. I smell copper pennies, and it's very strong. So I do not like well water around here. Of course, there was no bowl of hot noodle soup for Chubuchi. He currently stood outside the manor, getting battered by cold winds and suppressing the urge to cough. But he was still in an unusually good mood, because right before his eyes, Feng Xiao had been cornered 5-1. "Bring the jade out," he heard Feng Xiao say to Pei Jingzi. I get that. The water at the place I go to for vacation tastes like iron. It's all the minerals in the earth. Pei Jingzi stood there momentarily frozen, unsure what Feng Xiao intended. Then he turned and entered the manor, swiftly returning with the jade. The moonlight was bright and clear, and the jade shone radiantly in Pei Jingzi's hand. A hint of rippling green was visible in the center of the crystal clear stone. Whether or not it was the real jade of Heaven Lake, it was certainly a jade of unmatched quality. Multiple shining eyes fixed upon the jade. Feng Xiao drew himself up and said with perfect composure, "I assume you're all here for this?" He was met with silence, except for the woman in yellow who had already claimed she only wanted to borrow the jade for a look. The identities and aims of these unwanted guests remained unknown. It seemed no one was willing to speak first, as if they were competing to see who could be the most patient. Feng Xiao wasn't bothered, and Chu Buchu even less so. Only Pei Jingzi was growing anxious. He was aware he had his own lack of discipline to blame, but he didn't want his failings to reflect poorly on Feng Xiao. He silently drew a deep breath, doing what he could to control his restlessness. As before, the woman in yellow broke the silence. This one came first, and doesn't wish to make an enemy of the Jijian Bureau. I'm but a weak woman, and I've been shivering in the cold winds for most of the night. Take pity on me, Fenlang Jun. Let me see it, so I can return with my report. She gave a small smile. Though her face was unremarkable, her mellifluous voice drew involuntary glances from the assembly. Chu Buchu quietly looked around and found only two people who didn't look at her. One was the androgynous person clad in white with the veiled hat, and the other was the Gokturk man. Right from the beginning, the Gokturk man's attention had been focused on no one but Feng Xiao. Only a martial arts master with a heart clean of desires would maintain such unwavering focus on their target. As for the figure in black, still half shrouded in the shadows, that person was a distance away and turned to the side. Their left hand gripped their right wrist, stroking it occasionally. Chu Buchu's eyes narrowed slightly. That's a little odd. So their left hand gripped their right wrist, stroking it occasionally. Okay, so like maybe they were injured, or it could be a nervous tick. Okay. Feng Xiao didn't look at the others. His gaze was locked on the woman in yellow as if she was the only guest in the courtyard. Seeing her smile, he followed suit and said, "How polite you are. I'd certainly lend you the jade first, but I know neither your name nor your origins. If you take it and run, how will I find you?" "This one is Bing Xian," said the woman in yellow. Feng Xiao raised an eyebrow. "Your surname is Bing. That's unusual." "Names are merely what others call us. For example, even if you didn't call yourself anything as lofty as Fengleng Jun, you'd still be magnificent and without peer in this world. Isn't that right?" Feng Xiao chuckled. "Unlike those other meaningless guests, your words have won my heart. Say, why not come to my Jijian Bureau? I guarantee I'd help and protect you. Never would I let you sit on a roof in the middle of the night, shivering in the wind." Smiling, Bing Xian was about to reply when Feng Xiao snatched the jade from Pei Jingzi's hand and threw it to her. "Since I like you the most, I'm lending you the jade first." Bing Xian was taken aback. She'd never expected Feng Xiao would really follow through. She had no time to think. Her delicate toes pushed off the ground and she leapt into the air, feather-light, towards the jade. She was fast, but others were faster. The veiled person in white and the scarred man in gray also grabbed for the jade. Yet the Gokturk man didn't even look at it. As others dove for the treasure, his saber sprang from its sheath, its churning, tumultuous chi bearing down on Feng Xiao like a tidal wave. "Feng Xiao, this is not a Pokemon. You do not have to catch them all." He is offering positions fairly lackadaisically. The saber chi was so powerful that even Chu Buchu, who stood behind Feng Xiao, felt it as a gale roaring towards him. He stumbled back, about to slam into the wall, when someone dragged him viciously forward by his collar. With a start, he realized he was trapped within Feng Xiao's arms. But the Gokturk man had already reached them. Saber chi cut down from above, and Chu Buchu felt his top knot loosen and a hair flutter down. An expert at Feng Xiao's level knew the Gokturk man's surprise attack would at minimum knock his clasp loose. In order to preserve his hairstyle, he pulled Chu Buchu forward and used him as a shield. What an ass. Chu Buchu didn't need a mirror to know he looked like a disheveled madman. Rage surged in his heart, and he spat, "Frig Xiao, you motherfucking son of a bastard!" He soon realized the Gokturk man was aiding his revenge. The man immediately engaged Feng Xiao in a fierce battle, leaving Feng Xiao no chance to respond. Meanwhile, the man in gray, one step ahead of the others, had just wrapped his fingers around the jade. Yet before he could rejoice, it splintered in his hands and crumpled to powder, dissipating on the wind. The three fighting over the jade froze, completely dumbfounded. Used him as a body shield to protect his hairstyle. I love how they both have very odd priorities. Very much so. But they stick to them. Chapter 20. The man in gray could have sworn he'd done nothing to the jade, let alone smash it. But the stone had truly crumbled to dust, and he had no good explanation. The other two left off tussling and moved together to block his retreat, one from the front and the other from the back. Bing Xian smiled. This distinguished master has a terrible temper. He's destroyed something he can't have just so no one else can have it either. It's almost as bad as trading someone from a sword. I wonder. The person in white made no reply, but it was clear from the way they closed in that they wouldn't let the man in gray off easily. I didn't do anything. It shattered by itself. Oh, wait. He said it coldly. I didn't do anything. It shattered by itself, the man in gray said coldly. Both of us saw it plainly. We witnessed it with our own eyes. Are you claiming we saw wrong? Bing Xian raised an eyebrow. Chu Buchu leaned against the door and coughed quietly. The instant the man in gray moved, he'd ascertained his identity. But now wasn't a good time to step into the limelight. No one paid him any heed because he was sickly and had no fighting ability. He wasn't about to take the initiative to put himself in danger. Besides, there were surely others here capable of recognizing the man in gray. Sure enough, the person in white finally spoke. You wield a sword like a katana user, and your style is reminiscent of the famous Soga clan of Japan. But there are some differences. I heard Gogieru had a rising star known for his innovation, whose master was Japanese. Go Niang. That must be you, right? These words were spoken gently, with a cadence as refreshing as a spring breeze. It was rather out of place in such a bloodthirsty moment. Bing Niang couldn't help but examine the person in white anew. They had been able to identify the man in gray with ease, so they couldn't be an ordinary person. But though she racked her brain, she couldn't match this description to any of the top figures of the Jianghu. Unless they weren't from the Jianghu? Bing Xian's brow furrowed. She'd come for the jade with full awareness that the Jijian Bureau was no pushover. She'd known getting her hands on it would be no easy task, and this was before she'd seen how many other experts had appeared with the same goal. The Gokturk man alone was headache enough. At that thought, Bing Xian smiled slightly and tucked back a lock of her hair that had whipped loose in the wind. Feng Liang Jun has too many honored guests right now. I can see you don't have time to entertain me, so I'll take my leave first. I'll trouble you another day. Without waiting for Feng Xiao to respond, she leapt into the air, light as a feather. She touched down on the eaves and disappeared into the darkness. Across the way, Faux Air, the Gokturk man Bing Xian had identified as the greatest threat, was getting a shock. The reason was simple. Feng Xiao's appearance belied his skills. Those who underestimated him due to his excessive beauty would find themselves blindsided by his incredible martial arts. The Gokturk man had never set foot in the Central Plains, but he had considerable confidence in his own skills. He'd been convinced that if he stepped into the Jianghu, he'd have few equals, that he was strong enough to stand among the best of grandmasters. Since entering the Central Plains, the man had challenged several sects and guild leaders, all top martial experts. Just as he had expected, even within the expansive Jianghu, there were few who could match him. Until he met Feng Xiao. Feng Xiao's martial arts were not bold or powerful like his, but fluid and agile, as if he were shaking dew from his sleeves or snow from his robes. They conjured the image of plucking flowers with a smile or taking a graceful stroll. Every motion was beautiful, but Foer saw bloodlust concealed in that beauty. Feng Xiao's moves seemed effortless, yet each and every one threatened ambush from all directions. Foer discarded his initial carelessness and regarded his opponent with a renewed caution. Even the jade shattering didn't distract him. A battle between two peerless martial artists was a rare sight. The person in white and the Gogieron in gray, Nyang, called a temporary truce in order to watch. Chu coughed twice lightly, then whispered, "That man didn't come for the jade. He wants to kill Feng Xiao." Title drop, yep. Where did the Peerless? I'm looking to see where the Peerless was. Oh well. The words were meant for Pei Jingzi, who was standing beside him. Pei Jingzi was stunned. How do you know? Chu scoffed. Haven't you realized? From the moment he appeared, he only had eyes for Feng Xiao. He didn't even glance at the jade, and he didn't participate in the scuffle for it either. Oh, peerless martial artist. Thank you, Truffle. Do you know who he is? I've never seen him before, but if I'm not mistaken, his name is Foer, and he's the top martial artist under Ishbar Kagan. He was taught by great masters, and his martial skills combine the strengths of various schools. That man has yet to lose a fight since entering the Central Plains. He's what they call a Grand Master. Pei Jingzi gasped in surprise. He'd never expected an ordinary night like this could attract such a powerful martial artist. Who's stronger, him or my lord? I don't know any martial arts, said Chu. Who are you asking? Or why are you asking me? Pei Jingzi didn't bother replying. He watched for some time as the fighters' sleeves swirled and their silhouettes flickered, but they were simply too fast. Even Pei Jingzi couldn't tell who had the upper hand. He was so anxious he turned and ran back into the house, reappearing with an object cradled in his arm. Pei Jingzi called to Feng Xiao. Sir, your zither! Toss it over. Feng Xiao's voice was clear and calm, with no sign of surrender. Pei Jingzi's eyes lit up, and he threw the zither into the air. They heard but a single twang, yet the sound called to mind a vast army, the charge of 1,000 valiant soldiers. The very air went stagnant, and everyone's hair stood on end as they watched with bated breath. There were many weapons in the Jianghu, knives, swords, and spears, but this was the first time Foer had ever seen someone use a zither as a weapon. The zither was carved from lacquered black wood, and despite being solid and heavy, it looked weightless in Feng Xiao's hands, an obedient plaything. He attacked and defended, the thrum of the strings disturbing the minds of all who heard their song. What a zither, the person in white exclaimed. Go Niang, however, turned away from the fight between Feng Xiao and Foer. His brow furrowed as he looked at Pei Jingzi and Chu, who were both still observing the battle. In a flash, he dove towards them, his katana transforming into a tide of qi as it swept towards the pair. Pei Jingzi yanked Chu out of the way, but at the last second, Go Niang changed tactics and grabbed at them with his free hand. Pei Jingzi thought he was trying to take Chu as a hostage. He shoved Chu back and drew his sword to parry his opponent's strike. However, Go Niang's goal wasn't Chu, but Pei Jingzi. His blade immediately reversed its trajectory to meet Pei Jingzi's sword. His internal energy was deep and strong, the wind from his katana ferocious. Pei Jingzi felt a numbness in his wrist, then a sharp agony between his thumb and forefinger. His sword almost tumbled from his hand, and a moment later, Go Niang's sword was against his neck. "Hand over the jade if you value your life," Go Niangzi rasped. "You destroyed the jade," Pei Jingzi spat back. Go Niangzi scowled. "Don't mess with me. That was obviously a fake." He yelled to Feng Xiao. "If that jade were real, you would never have handed it over so readily. Give me the real jade or I'll kill him." Even inches from death, Pei Jingzi couldn't help asking, "Why me?" Didn't common sense dictate that Chubuchu was a more suitable hostage since he was essentially defenseless? "Don't take me for a fool," said Go Niangzi Niang coldly. "That man is Feng Xiao's lover, capable of traveling the Jianghu with him. He must know at least a technique or two. You, on the other hand, are both weak and expendable. Why would I grab anyone else?" Pei Jingzi was utterly flummoxed. As if Go Niang's words hadn't dealt his self-esteem a severe enough blow, Feng Xiao's quiet chuckle drifted down from above. "If you know he's expandable, why grab him? Grabbing my lover would be better. Maybe then I'll cooperate." No, I'm going to give Pei Jingzi 2 of them, because he was trying to do good for Chubuchu and got injured, and then he is now just getting utterly disrespected. The moment those words were uttered, the person in white smiled. "Is that so? Then I'll give it a try." A flash of white robes, and he was at Chubuchu's side. Chubuchu felt pain slam through his shoulder, rendering him completely immobile. And that is where we are going to end tonight. But yes, 2 injustices to service workers. I feel like I should almost just make a Pei Jingzi. I think he's gotten like 4 of the 5 up, or like 4 out of the 7 up there. Nope, we don't have one that's just separate. So I'm going to give him 4. You know what? Maybe 5. He gets 5. Alright, so we are ending with 5 injustices to service workers, 1 justice to service worker, 2 injustice to animals, 1 injustice to innocents, and a separate category where I will mark both the injustice to service workers and injustice specifically to Pei Jingzi himself. He has 5. So he gets his own special category. But in any case, I wish you all a lovely rest of your evening. I know this one ran a little bit longer than usual, or they have been recently, but thank you for sticking with me. I know I definitely was entertained and had a great time. For anyone watching later, I hope you enjoyed and had just as much fun as we did. I will see you all Thursday, and I'm glad you enjoyed the haul, Truffle. See you Thursday.